Hey, everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia, back with the latest episode of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered by our friends at Game Time app and Prize Picks, and of course, our great group at CLNS Media. Joining me here on the day before 2024 Bengals training camp officially opens is the one and only Jay Morrison of Pro Football Network. Does an awesome job, of course, covering the Cincinnati Bengals and all things related in terms of the National Football League. It is my pleasure to welcome Jay back to this episode of Jungle Roar. Are you rested and ready to go for training camp, Jay Morrison?
Ready? Yes. Rested? I'm not so sure. Sometimes those few weeks off, it takes a little while to recover. But yeah, I'm ready to get out there and cover some actual football as opposed to what the offseason is, where you're just looking for things to write about.
Or topics about certain quarterbacks' haircuts and how they're colored coming into training camp.
That's why I'm wearing a hat, so you guys can't see my training camp hair that I've yet to unveil.
Have you seen Joe Burrow's?
I did. Yeah, I was stunned. I knew he had the buzz cut, and I thought the buzz cut was sending a message that, hey, it's all business. I don't want to talk about my hair. He kind of got teased a little bit about his hair on the Pardon My Take podcast, and so I thought he's going to show up with that buzz cut, and then the bleach blonde dye just kind of shoots that theory down. I honestly thought maybe he might show up in a hat today just to kind of keep the mystery going a little bit, but no, he's out there, and it's a look, that's for sure.
Bigger, stronger, blonder. That's what I tweeted out when I saw that. And that's kind of sums up, I think that's a great jumping off point, Jay Morrison, in terms of what Bengal fans should be looking for in training camp. Obviously, the biggest issue is Joe Burrow's right wrist. And the fact that he was cleared for full contact, announced by head coach Zach Taylor on Monday at the media day, that was probably the biggest news in terms of what's going to take place on the field. No?
Yeah, I mean, in some regards, it's moot. There is no contact in training camp, and even if there is, even if they're thumping, no one's getting anywhere near the quarterback. So that part of it, I don't know, but it led into the question about playing in the preseason, and there is contact in the preseason, right. And Zach said his intent is to play him in those preseason games. So I think that was welcome news for everybody, because there was still lingering questions. He was not throwing with full velocity in minicamp, and he was taking days off in OTAs, and that, quarterbacks never had that injury before. And there was questions about where is that risk exactly, and the fact that even though he's not going to undergo contact in training camp, the fact that he's cleared for full contact leads you to believe that risk is just about 100%.
Yeah, and that is, and I wrote this for CLNS the fact that the Bengals made an issue of it and actually announced that he means to me that if he needs to take a day off, one or two, whatever, because his wrist is barking up a little bit, it sends a signal that he's not going to miss any meaningful reps come the joint practices, and indeed if he plays in the preseason. That's the signal it sends to me. I think that's the signal it sends to the rest of the team that he is good to go.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of signals sent yesterday. It wasn't the cliche answers. There was some news broken. Duke was very clear about some things. And then the Burrow thing, I do think it sends a signal, but I think it's also, Zach said, it's just being proactive, and they're going to give him rest days. But you remember last year when he got hurt and he was out, and we were all talking and writing about how valuable those reps were for Jake Browning because Burrow was hurt in training camp, and he got all those reps with the first team.
Right.
So I think, yeah, you want to give him a rest day, and you want to give Jake Browning a day to run with nothing but the ones here and there. That can pay dividends down the road. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
In terms of some of the other news that took place on Monday, your thoughts on what Duke Tobin said about Ja'Marr Chase. And I found it interesting, Jay, that he said, I regard Ja'Marr Chase as Ja'Marr Chase, an individual, a very extremely talented football player. But he made an effort, I thought, to humanize Ja'Marr Chase and everybody on the roster. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think that was part of it, and I think part of it too is he didn't want to answer the question about where the market stood. So he's like, I see him as Jamar. I don't see him as a wide receiver. It doesn't matter what the other wide receivers are making. But Mike Brown said it does. That he said apparently that what other receivers are making impacts what Jamar and his team want, and of course it does. He's going to want to be the highest paid player in the league, or the highest paid wide receiver in the league. I thought it was encouraging that they're working towards it. I get it. The Bengals would probably like to get it done. Well, they said they would. They said they'd like to get it done sooner rather than later, but I don't see it happening. I mean, it makes no sense for Jamar to sign it right now. Yeah, the security, but he's already got $21.8 million guaranteed next year. That's security in a lot of regards. So, yeah, I can see him going out, having another another Pro Bowl season, maybe an All-Pro season. His value is only going to go up. Nothing he can do this year is going to decrease his value. It's only going to go in one direction, and I see this playing out into 2025 and possibly well into 2025. There's going to be guaranteed money that's going to be haggled over, and I don't know if it's going to be a contentious negotiation, but I think it's going to be a prolonged one. I think it's going to get done, but I don't think it's going to be the quiet, nobody says anything deal that we saw with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, where everybody kept it close to the vest. Jamar likes to talk, and Jamar is honest to a fault.
He absolutely
and
does.
I think as this thing drags on, we're going to hear from Jamar's side.
I have a slightly different take. Jamar did say toward the end of the regular season last year, and I know you remember this, Jay, that he wants money not only in the first season, but the second year, if I recall, guaranteed. Well, go ahead.
He was asked if the most important thing, and he said guaranteed money. And then I think it was Ben Baby.
Yep.
Yeah, he said in year one or even beyond that. And he's like, oh, now you're getting too spicy. And he didn't want to answer the question there. But I think that's what he meant by it. But yes, he wants more than just that first season guarantee. Why wouldn't he? I mean, Justin Jefferson's getting $110 million. That's more than 3 of those 4 seasons on his deal. So yeah, Jamar should feel like he should fall right in line there. And Bengals don't like to do that kind of guaranteed money. So I think that is where the sticking point's going to be, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And Jamar's value, like I said, there's nothing he can do to decrease his value. It's going to go up no matter what. And as soon as T. Higgins officially signs with another team, it goes even higher, because then he's the one that's left. He's the big receiver that's left on this team. And I think I don't know if a fight is the right word, but it's going to be a back and forth for a few more months into next year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I don't see it getting done easily. And these kind of big deals, especially with a guy like Jamar Chase, I think never do get done easily. But I think with Jamar it gets done. I don't think T. Higgins gets done. And the bigger question to me is, and has been for a while, even after T signed his franchise tag for $21.8 million right after minicamp ended, bigger question is, are the Bengals tempted to sign him to another franchise tag next year? Have they even thought about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that fits in because what would it? You have to go above and beyond what the franchise tag is to do it for a second year in a row. And I don't even know if this is legal, but I kind of wondered the timing of T signing it and sending the message that he was going to be there. I almost wonder if there's some sort of under the table agreement where I'm going to sign it now. I'm going to show up for the first day of camp. I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to be the best receiver this team I can be for this team. And then there's a wink and a nod that you guys will not tag me next year. I don't know if that's even a legal negotiating ploy, but it just feels like it was kind of a gentleman's agreement, because he didn't have to sign it then. Even if he fully intended to show up on the first day of camp, he could have played it out. He could have waited till yesterday or today to sign the tag. And I think there was a message in when he signed it. And I would, even from the financial standpoint, I'd be surprised if they tagged him again. They went out and drafted Jermaine Burton for a reason. That you got Yoshi Voss, you got Charlie Jones last year. They've restocked that receiver pool, and I think they are fully prepared to move on from T.
I do too, and I actually think it gives the Bengals a ton of options. I don't think you can have too many options at the wide receiver position, right?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. That's one of the reasons Mike Gesicki's here. He's basically a wide receiver and a tight end body. And then you got Charlie Jones, who was drafted to be the heir apparent to Tyler Boyd in the slot. Yoshi Bosch can play in the slot. Burton can play slot, play outside. I think you're going to see Jamar a lot in the slot. Trenton Irwin is just that reliable, dependable guy. I think it's going to be really interesting to see the groupings of who's out there when and how they move these guys around. And I don't know how they have enough time to practice all the possibilities that they can come up with these guys. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then you throw in the rookie tight ends who are going to be a big part of this. I know Eric All's on NFI right now, but those guys are in the mix too.
Yes, so let's get into the on-field position battles and the position groupings that you're looking forward to watching the most in training camp. What sticks out? What's the number one position battle you're looking for? Is it the cornerback battle? Is that the number one battle you're looking forward to watching unfold the most?
Sunday I might have said yes, but the way they were talking about Amarius Mims yesterday and the smile on Dan Pitcher's face when he was talking about him, and Duke saying things that he never says, but he says that we got that guy at 18 and his skill set, his profile, he's a top 5 pick. Zach Taylor was glowing about how Amarius has done everything right from, every day when he comes in, his attitude and his attention and to detail and his studying and everything. And it was just, I don't know. I think there's a real chance that he could beat out Trent Brown for that job. And I'm curious to see what kind of chance I know they're keeping an open mind about it, but you also have a new person in Trent Brown that needs to develop camaraderie and chemistry with that offensive line. So the cornerback position, I think you're going to see an apples to apples kind of thing where they're just going to take Dax and DJ in there, and they're both going to get plenty of reps with the one and see how that plays out. But I'm really intrigued by this tackle battle, how many reps that Mims is going to get with the first team early on, and then as it progresses. I'm sure Trent's going to get some rest days as a vet, and we'll see a lot of Mims with the one. But when they're both practicing, what does that workload look like? How often do we see Mims with the ones?
How many examples can you come up with in terms of first round tackles or first round offensive linemen for that matter, but primarily tackles, of course, because that's where the commodity normally is with first round offensive linemen on the edge with the tackles. Can you recall, since Anthony Munoz was 3rd overall first round in 1980, how many tackles do you think compare to Anthony Munoz coming out? I'm not saying, certainly nobody has even come close to matching Anthony Munoz, but when they came out, can you recall as many or that many players that have compared favorably to Anthony Munoz when they first came out of college? I can't. That's why I'm asking the question.
Tony Mandrich was supposed to be one, and he was an absolute bust. I can't remember that.
And not taken by the Bengals, but actually specifically taken by the Bengals.
Oh, by the Bengals? No, I can't think of. Even what Jonah was a number 9, that was nowhere close. Mims 18, and even though they think he should have been top 5, I actually looked it up. They've had now let me call it real quick. Sorry, it's either 16 or 18. Okay, it's 16 rookies have started the season opener on the offensive line for the Bengals. Only 2 have been tackles. That was Munoz in 80 and Vern Holland in 1971.
Wow. CJ, that's why we have you on the Jungle World podcast. That is exceptionally good nugget finding by Jay Morrison.
And I say not ever. That it only those starting stats only go back to 70. So maybe it happened in 68, 69. I don't know.
That's only 2 years before that.
Yeah, Bob Johnson was obviously a rookie when he started in 68, but and it's happened a lot recently. Volson in 22, Michael Jordan in 19, Billy Price 18, Bodine 14, Zeitler 12, Bowling 10. So you're talking in the last 13 years, 6 guys, but they were all interior guys. As far as tackles, it hasn't happened since Munoz in 80.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated to see how that dynamic unfolds and whether or not Amarius Mims has everything it takes to win the job as a rookie protecting one of the most prized quarterbacks in the National Football League. That would speak to the Bengals' confidence in this rookie if he indeed won that job.
And how much does he have to win it by? If he's like 2 or 3% better than Trent Brown, I still think they roll with Trent Brown and go with the veteran. Like, does he have to absolutely blow him out of the water to get that week 1 start? There's a lot that goes into that.
You know, there's nothing better during the summer than experiencing a sunny afternoon at the ballpark, or maybe a nice summer evening, catching a ball game live in person, not streaming, not on your phone, not on the radio, not on the TV. You know, I remember driving down from Maine every summer. It was a big deal. We get tickets to see the Red Sox at Fenway Park. And I just remember seeing the green grass as you'd walk up through the tunnel. It was like heaven. And I want you to have the same feeling. So go download the Game Time app and go see a game. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so it's really easy to use. You can get your tickets faster and easier. Plus, as you get closer to the first pitch, the prices on Game Time actually go down. They have killer last-minute deals. They have the lowest price guarantee, and you can check out the view from your seats. Now, it's really easy. You just go to your phone, you download the Game Time app, you scan it, and you can see there are great seats to the Sox and the Yankees, or if you want that down-home minor league feeling, you can go see the Woo Sox or your favorite minor league club that's close to you. You know, I go to Worcester and Polo Park. It is a great place to take the family to see a game. Very economical, too. Plus, Game Time also has great deals on the New England Revolution and Patriot preseason games. You can get last-minute deals and save up to 60% off on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. You can save even more when you choose the section and you let Game Time choose the seats. You always get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
There is. So what about Dax Hill against DJ Turner? What should we be looking for in terms of tells that the coaching staff will look at and make a determination?
Well, I mean, they're playing outside corner. They don't play a ton of man coverage, but I think that's what you're looking for. Who does it better? And when they are in zone, who's messing up assignments? Because that was a big deal last year. And you know, it was more blown assignments with Dax. It was more bad angles and poor tackling with DJ Turner. I think there's a lot to look at there. I think the tell is going to be who starts getting more of those snaps with the ones. Like I said, is it going to be one period it's Dax, one period it's DJ, or is it going to be one day it's Dax, the next day it's DJ? I don't know how they're going to split that up. I think Dax is going to win it. I do. DJ, yes, he hit the rookie wall last year, but there was a lot of issues later, and Dax has been here longer. He's played that position really well. He actually covers man-to-man pretty well when he was asked to do that here with the Bengals, and he did it well in Michigan. And I just, if I'm picking a horse in that race, I'm going with Dax.
That's fair. Josh Newton, this is a fascinating rookie because I know the Bengals are high on his athletic ability. His athleticism is through the roof. Did really well. I believe a 4.3 in the 40. Very, very fast. Do you think there's a potential for him to get not only reps on the outside, but get some looks at the slot corner, at least in preseason or in training camp? Or are they looking at him primarily on the outside?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess a lot depends on how that battle with Dax, because if DJ wins that, I think Dax automatically becomes your backup slot.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think Josh Newton is here to be an outside corner. He does not lack for confidence. I mean, he's going to be another fun guy to watch in camp when he's going one-on-one, especially on the one-on-one battles where, you know, maybe he'll get a chance to go against Chase and Higgins and those guys, as opposed to running more with the 2s and the 3s in the team periods. But yeah, I don't know what their long-term plan is there. but I would not rule him out. Everybody says the battle between Dax and DJ, and I think he's a wild card in there. It would kind of have to be the same thing, well, like I said, with Mims, where you have to blow those two out of the water to win that job. But they love, like you said, they love his athleticism, and he's got the confidence, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do out there once they start being competitive. We didn't get to see any of this kind of competitive stuff in OTAs, in mini camp. That's the best part of training camp, of watching these guys actually go at it.
Speaking with Jay Morrison, does a phenomenal job covering the Bengals and the NFL for Pro Football Network. Jay, what about Chris Jenkins? He is somebody who is obviously, we've seen the videos, we've seen him on the X, we've seen him on YouTube, the workout videos. How will that translate to his play along the defensive line? I think he has the potential of being a rookie playmaker. The question for me is, will he show enough to get significant reps and become a part of a heavier rotation in the middle of the defensive line as a rookie?
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, they took him in the second round. You don't get the sense they overdrafted him. I think that's where a lot of people had him slotted, was right in the 40s range. And they're going to be smart about this, especially early in the year when it's hot and guys are wearing down. And I think he's going to be right there in the rotation with Sheldon Rankins, with BJ Hill, both those guys, getting up there a little bit in age. So load management becomes an issue. And I think we're going to see a lot of Chris Jenkins in the preseason games. And if he's in there blowing up the interior of the other team's offensive line and getting to the quarterback, I mean, why would you not put him in that mix? And it could be a detriment to Joseph Osai. I think he's a guy that they move inside on third downs to be that pass rusher, and maybe that becomes Chris Jenkins' role, and he's in there with either Rankins or Hill. There's so much they can do. We talked about receivers. There's so much they can do with that D line. But I've been really impressed with him. And the thing is that the pedigree with his dad and his uncle, and he's not going to come in here taking anything for granted. He's got incredible athleticism and skill, but he's going to work for it, and he's going to do everything right. And I think he's going to be, I don't want to say a big year, because I don't know what the workload's going to be, but when he's in there, he's going to be a factor.
And the reason training camp is so important is we start to, once pads go on about 8 days into training camp, or 7 days, whenever it's going to be, we start to see the contact, and we start to see physical battles unfold, and how guys handle not only the physicality, but the hand-to-hand combat and the endurance, how they handle the heat and all of that. We don't see that in OTAs and minicamp, obviously, because there's no pads. But I'm curious to see how a guy like McKinley Jackson, how as a rookie, can he make an impact? Because he's really the only true nose tackle, zero tech that they have, right? I mean, at least they drafted him to be that.
Yeah, and I think those guys always kind of balk and take exception to that they like to think they can rush the passer too, and maybe he can be more than a run stopper, and I think he factors in their plans as well too. It is still the AFC North, and you're still talking about Nick Chubb and the running game, Derrick Henry with the Ravens now, and I mean these teams run the ball, and we saw how valuable DJ Reader was. Even when he wasn't making plays, he was eating up two blockers and letting other people make plays. And if McKinley can be just a percentage of that in his rookie year, I think it'll be a big boost for this defense.
We move on now to the edge, and I know you made reference to it with Joseph Osai, but I think the Myles Murphy, Joseph Osai dynamic is going to be a fascinating one to watch. I forgot to mention, I might have to go back into my primer for training camp and add Joseph Osai, but Osai and Myles Murphy, what should fans be looking for from those two players? Because what we heard in the offseason is that Myles Murphy is bigger and stronger. He's going to be quicker. This is a big year for Myles Murphy. It's an even bigger year for Joseph Osai.
Yeah, I mean, it's a contract year. He's a free agent at the end of this year, and it's his first healthy offseason. And they talked about it. Yeah, I can't remember which one person. We talked to so many different people yesterday. It might have been Zach, it might have been Duke, but said he's been in the building more than anybody else in the offseason, and he's looked great. And I think we saw it. We saw him flash at the end of 2022. That run down the stretch, he was playing great. And it's probably his best game he's ever played in the AFC Championship game until he had the unfortunate penalty.
Right.
So if he can get back to that, again, it comes down to load management. Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard getting up there a little bit in age. I don't think you're gonna pull them off the field a lot, but it's nice to know that you can not have that huge drop off. And I do think we're going to see Myles Murphy play a lot more than he did last year. He really came on toward the end of last year. And I know Sam Hubbard was hurt, but I think Myles Murphy could be the second best pass rusher on this team in short order.
Wow, that's saying a lot. Why do you feel that way? Just because of what you saw at the end of last year?
Yeah, I mean, just the light goes on for these guys. And I asked Lou about it. Was it production? Was it the process, seeing the way he was picking things up in meetings? And he said it was all of it. They were just really impressed with the way he came on. And, Sam's going to fight him for that job. Sam Hubbard was playing through a lot last year, and he's healthy now. But Myles Murphy's a first-round pick. And you said he's bigger and stronger. And I think this is going to be a really, really big year for him.
I think it's a great sign that a first-round pick like that went out and got bigger and stronger in the offseason. And the reason I say that is because it shows a commitment, a desire to be better than just your first-round status on paper.
Yeah, and they get a taste of it, and they see the progress, and they're like, well, it can be even better if I do these things that they're asking me to do. And then, your rookie year, it's more specific training to the 40-yard dash and all this stuff you have to do to get ready for the draft process. And now you're a pro. This is your job. You're locked into the spot you're at, and you can spend the entire offseason focusing on getting bigger, getting stronger, doing all the things the coaches are asking for you. And it's a great sign that he took that to heart. A few guys, Yoshibas did that too, went out and hired a wide receiver coach and really worked on his route running. And that's good to see. That goes back to the culture that they built here, where nobody wants to be the guy that's going to let this team down. And you have a good roster. You've got to fight for every spot.
Can Austin McNamara, the big-footed kicker punter out of Texas Tech, can he give Brad Robbins a run his money at punter?
I think he will. I think it's going to be really. People have asked me for my favorite position battles, and punters right up there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a lesser of two evils thing where we're like, well, we got to pick one of them. I think those two guys are going to put on a show, and they're going to make it really hard on them. And I talked to Darren about it. It's like, as good as Evan McPherson is, that guy's had to deal with a different holder every single year. And how beneficial would it be if Brad Robbins is back and you've got that same battery together? That was something that they had for such a long time here with Clark Harris and Kevin Huber. And now it's just been this constant overturn at punter. We'll see. Darren said he was really impressed with what Brad Robbins did in the offseason. But he also said last year that he was great in practice, and it just didn't translate into games. So that's going to be one where, it's going to be fun to watch in training camp and the hang time, and see who's doing the best directional kicking and the distance and all that. But that's where the preseason games are really going to tell which one of those guys is going to win that job.
When people ask me what's the biggest unknown about training camp this year, I have an immediate answer, and that is how the new kickoff rules will apply and how Darren Simmons will approach it. I really have no idea. And maybe I should, but I don't have a good sense of how the return game is going to be different, if Charlie Jones's role is going to be different. How about Travion Williams and Chris Evans, both of whom I believe are in contract years. Travion Evans is in a perpetual contract year, but Chris Evans, drafted in 21, he's coming up on a big season if he indeed makes the roster out of training camp. I have no idea how the special teams is going to look in terms of the new kickoff rules. Do you?
No, I don't think Darren does either. I think it's going to be in flux for most of the season, and that's how Chris Evans is going to make this team as a kick returner. They haven't seen enough from him in the receiving game or in the running back game,
right? I think that's been assumed. Well, I've assumed that for the last couple of years that that's the only way Chris Evans makes the roster.
Yeah, I mean they were hopeful last year he could be that third down back, but you're going to need 2 kick returners. I think Charlie Jones is going to be the guy, and Darren talked about this yesterday, where he thinks the kickoff returns are going to look a lot like punt returns, just by the spacing and how fast the coverage team is on you. And Charlie, he had that 81-yard touchdown in week 2, and he breaks the thumb in week 3, so it kind of derailed his season. I think they're still high on what he can do as a punt returner, and I think he's probably the leading candidate to do that job. And it would just make sense. It would translate that he's probably going to be the leading candidate to be the kick returner too. You're going to need 2. You're going to want one on both sides of the field. The big question, the variable comes in is, what if he wins that number 3 job? He's your primary slot. Then do they still feel comfortable putting him back there for all those special team snaps too? But I would expect that Charlie Jones is going to lead this team in kick returns and punt returns this year.
I also think it gives him a chance to stay sharp if indeed, let's say, Trenton Irwin is your third receiver, or obviously Jamar and T. If Jermaine Burton wins that third receiver job, I'm fascinated to see how the receiver job dominoes into the special teams, because I think it will. Absolutely, and because if he's your main returner, then he's active on game day, and that means Irwin, Yoshi, somebody's going to be inactive. And then when they go 5 wide, he gets to go in there, or if there is an injury, he gets to step in and kind of prove himself some more as a receiver. So, yeah, I there's so many different ways that the return game is going to ripple into the receiving room and the offensive game plan. Top 10. It's on my top 10 things to look for. How the Jay Morrison sitting stool looks on the training camp fields. Are you excited to debut this on Wednesday?
I am. Paul Daner actually went out and bought one too. So
I don't know this.
Yes, I can't wait. It's I've not used it yet to actually sit on. I took it to a couple practices for OTAs, but just the weather was nice, or I just didn't feel like breaking it out and sitting on it. But
I cannot wait to see it Wednesday. And you're going to make me jealous, and then I'm going to be like, screw it. I'm just going to go out and buy one myself.
They're like $25 on Amazon. And if you guys don't know, it's like the size of a Frisbee, but it's thicker. It's more like the thickness of a Roomba. And then it just twists and opens up to anywhere from 1 inch to 36 inches. And it's a very convenient, very light little stool. It's plastic, so nobody's going to balk if we're sitting on the sidelines on a stool. It's not metal. Nobody's going to get hurt. And it does for the long, hot days. It's going to be very nice to I mean, we can always sit down, but at our age, sometimes it's hard to get up when you're actually sitting on the ground.
I do know this, Jay. Thank you. I do know this. By the way, a couple of notes. The 2-tone green that you're wearing is fantastic, and that is a Bobcats hat you're wearing, I assume. OU.
It is an OU hat, and then in honor of the Olympics, I have a Paris, France shirt on.
Very nicely done.
I'm ready. I love the Olympics.
You do?
Yes.
I like them. Right now, I'm on information overload, so I think because my older daughter was a competitive swimmer, and a rower at Miami. I had to throw that in there to counter your OU, but she's a big swimmer, so I watched the swimming activity in the Olympics, all the swim races, men's and women's, and then I get track and field. Certainly, I'll watch some track and field, but I don't know. Beyond that, we'll see what I can fit in my brain, because I'm literally, Jay, there is so much right now on my plate. I don't want to get overloaded. Everything I take in, I want to be able to take in and digest. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. And I mean, they're long, hot days at training camp. Sometimes you come home and you're ready to go to bed at 8 or 8:30. You're not going to stay up till 11 to watch all the Olympics.
I'll tell you what I do to unwind. I watch The Office. The lovely Deborah Ann knows this. If I need to completely zone out and unwind, I will watch The Office. I did find it interesting that Zach Taylor was watching Hard Knocks, or takes in Hard Knocks, New York Giants off season. Have you watched that?
I watched the first episode. I thought it was really good, and then I went on vacation. I haven't had time. I also thought Receiver. I watched the first episode of Receiver on Netflix, and I thought it was fantastic.
Okay,
I've always been a George Kittle fan, but he was like the focus of that first episode, and it was incredible. So yeah, both of those are really good, and everybody we talked to yesterday seemed pretty excited that the Bengals are going to be on Hard Knocks for the divisional, the mid-in-season Hard Knocks, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Even if it means more work, we're going to have to watch it every Tuesday night and write off of it. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see an entire division broken down the way at Hard Knocks. I've loved Hard Knocks since it came out. I just love their storytelling and the unique angles and everything. And I'm really looking forward to it.
I also think it's important and significant that Zach Taylor embraces it, because I think it sends a message to his team. Don't be irresponsible, of course. Don't be giving away plays, but embrace the opportunity to be on in the national spotlight, because that's, if we go where we want to go, we want to be in the national spotlight all the time. Enjoy it, soak it up, have fun with it. And I think that's why, I believe he was asked yesterday about it. He was like, I love it. I love being on Hard Knocks. I think it's good for the organization. And I think it sends the right message in terms of don't be afraid of it, embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, he said that we expect to have a really good season. Why wouldn't we want people to see that? And then he said too, the personality side. He's like, we've got some really interesting personalities and characters on this team. I think it's gonna be great for them to showcase that. So, even Mike Brown, he said, "Oh, nobody says yay, we're going to be on Hard Knocks."
Hot dog,
but, yeah, hot dog. But you do, and what he said is true, because I wasn't here. I wasn't covering the team the first time they were on, but in 13 when they were on, it's like, holy crap, there's a lot of cameras. And then a couple days in, they just blend into the background. You hardly ever notice them.
Right. Well, he is Jay Morrison, hot dog. He does a great job covering the Cincinnati Bengals. Be sure to follow all of his great work on Pro Football Network. He'll have the Bengals covered wall to wall, that's for sure, starting Wednesday with training. Actually, already did with Media Day on Monday, but starting Wednesday, as will I, on CLNSCincy.com. We'll have Bengals training camp coverage day in, day out, night out. You know where to follow us. I'm on Twitter and X at Trags, Trags. Jay Morrison is, there you see it on the screen if you're consuming this on the video, at by Jay Morrison, and also find his work on, again, the Pro Football Network. Has a great podcast, by the way. Plug that real quick, Jay.
Yeah, I do the PFN podcast with Dallas Robinson. We do that once a week. And then I have the Growler podcast with Paul Daner Jr., which is another once a week one, although we are going to do little daily hits on our stools after practice every day at camp.
I cannot wait to consume those. And that makes me all the more grateful that Jay Morrison has taken time out of his busy week to join me on this, the Jungle Roar podcast, the day before 2024 Bengals training camp opens. Want to thank our great sponsors, of course, Game Time app and Prize Picks. And I want to thank everybody at CLNS Media for getting us on all the great platforms where you can download the Jungle Roar podcast. Until next week, I'm Mike Petralia Trags. Keep that jungle roaring.